Good afternoon or evening. My name is Greg Williams. I'm Director of Archives and Special Collections, the Gerth Archives and Special Collections at Cal State Dominguez Hills, which is a university about 15 miles south of Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles. I'm here today to talk about activist collections that the Gerth Archives has collected over the last few years. These include large former small libraries, including the Holt Labor Library from San Francisco, the Weatherwax collection, which was the papers of a prominent communist in Los Angeles and Alameda County, the LA Free Press collection, which we dug out of the desert several year ago, and the CSU Japanese American Digitization Project, which was a collaborative project that resulted in 50,000 documents being digitized from 29 different institutions in California relating to Japanese American incarceration during World War II. The university I'm associated with is Cal State Dominguez Hills. It was founded it wasn't founded as a result of, located as a result of the Watts riots. And the rebellion resulted almost immediately in determining where the campus would be located. It was already going to be located in a couple of different places. And then finally they focused on the town of Carson, which is next door to Torrance and next door to Compton and down the road from Watts. We do an enormous amount of collecting through either purchase or donation. We do community outreach with a number of groups from Compton, Torrance, the South Bay of Los Angeles, all over the place. We do a lot of community work with different archives, and we go in search for material that focuses on the history of obscure or not so obscure or radical or activist organization. This is the Holt Labor Library collection being taken out of San Francisco in the dark of night. This was, that resulted in us getting a large amount of material. This is the LibGuide to the Holt collection. We have any number of materials from it. Mostly it's not only personal papers of Socialist Workers' Party people, it's also collections of publications from any number of organizations, from the Liberator to any number of other militant type organizations. These are the types of organizations that are represented in the Holt Labor Library: the Spartacus League of the US, Socialist Action, Democratic Socialists Organizing Committee, the New American Movement. We have Johnson Forest Tendency materials, both in the Holt Labor Library and in the LA Free Press collection. The Holt Labor Library, we've been reboxing it. You can tell one side has the reboxed material, the other side has the stuff that we're still working on. There's probably 5,000 periodicals, if not more, or newspapers in the Holt Labor Library collection, in addition to materials like that. The Holt Library also has material on hands off of Cuba, Cuban activists in the United States trying to get the United States government not to bother Castro in the early 60s. We're stuck here. And we're not stuck there. Cancel. Okay, we're going back up here. And then we've got a good deal of Black Panther material, the original newspapers and adjacent materials. that the Black Panther Party published in the late 60s throughout the 70s. We have a good deal of material that we're still cataloging from the whole collection. Anything and everything comes up. Victory in Europe is a defeat for the working class. The uprising of workers' councils in Kurdistan. This is stuff that's in the Holt Labor Library collections that we're still organizing. Additional material, a James Lee Boggs pamphlet on a manifesto for a Black Revolutionary Party, something related to, we have materials relating to anarchy and anything under the sun. That one in the corner says Workers of the World Ignite. And Subversion wants to know what really happened in LA, probably relating to the Rodney King rebellion. Here's what the whole collection looks like now. We have a large subject file, we have a large publication file, we have individual people's papers, and the Holt is a big boom for our archive, and it's got a lot of alternative material. The John Weatherwax collection is another interesting one. Basically, out of his file cabinets after he died, it went to an organization. That organization started to sell it. Somebody started to sell it on eBay. Then it went to a bibliographer, an antiquarian bookseller. He started selling it piecemeal, and eventually I was able to convince him and pay him enough money to get a good deal of it together. This other flyer, the Dodgers and the Browns and the Indians do it, is focused on integration in baseball. They're talking about the major league teams in 1948 or 49 that had integrated baseball with Jackie Robinson, Larry Doby, and a few others. But they asked why in Los Angeles, the two minor league teams in the Pacific Coast League had not integrated their teams. Those teams were the Hollywood Stars and the Los Angeles Angels. The other material in the Weatherwax collection includes flyers for a Mother Bloor speech in the 30s in Berkeley. And then there are a good deal of material relating to the American Committee for the Protection of the Foreignborn, which was a pro-immigration organization that took place in the 30s and the 40s. A lot of what we have is from the 40s and the 50s. And in the 50s, their work in their newsletter and others was focused on trying to stop the deportation of a Korean architect named David Hoon. I think they were eventually successful in stopping that, but there were a lot of others that they tried and they failed to stop their deportation. The Los Angeles Free Press was the first underground newspaper in the United States after the Village Voice. In the 60s, it set the bar for underground newspapers. Every underground newspaper that came out in the 60s owed something to Art Kunken, the publisher, and the Los Angeles Free Press. It started in 64. It was there on time to cover the Watts Rebellion. And basically that's where it got its street cred in Los Angeles and its influence in other things. This is me retrieving the Los Angeles Free Press collection on the grounds of the Institute of Mental Physics in Joshua Tree, California, in July of 2021. It was a mess. This bin right here had packed material up to the brim. It was scattered in about 5 other locations on this grounds, including on the porch of this guy's trailer, in a container, and basically this is what came out of that collection a little bit. The Black Panthers published an adjacent newspaper called Black Unity. There was only 1 or 2 issues of it. It was published from the Marine base at Camp Pendleton, which was probably the reason why it didn't have too many more issues. The underground newspaper Rat was a New York staple. It had a great and interesting history where the feminist staff members took it over from whoever else was running it. And this particular issue of Rat was indeed eaten by rats in that bin that I just showed you. Here's another thing we found in the Free Press collection. Free Press collection has resulted in 2 grants for a couple $100,000 for us, one from the National NHPRC, National Historic Records and Publications Commission, and a local granting agency, the Haynes Foundation. The other materials in our collection includes earlier civil rights stuff, such as material from the Civil Rights Congress, which was always called a front organization for the Communist Party, but nonetheless, they did work towards civil rights. And there's another letter from Bayard Rustin talking about the integration of the armed forces after World War II. Other collections and exhibits that we do at Dominguez Hills included a Ledante, an exhibit on the Chicano movement, and anything under the sun that we thought our students would be interested in, including a clothesline full of T-shirts and materials from the Zoot Suit plays. We have a large collection of newspapers, including La Raza from Los Angeles in the 60s. This issue is when the newspaper was raided, cops closed down their offices, and the LA Free Press helped them get out their issue anyways by doing a joint issue. And other things for outreach, we did during the pandemic, we did an exhibit on civil rights in our collections, in the Holt collections. And we did this at a bookstore entitled, whose name is actually Page Against the Machine, who is located in Long Beach. Our collection of Japanese American material grew exponentially in the 7 years that we took part in a project that we originated on gathering the material within the CSU and then within other California history organizations to document and digitize Japanese American internment or incarceration during World War II. This photograph here is of the National Guard arriving at Tule Lake, a prison, to quell what they thought of as was potential violence. Other material that we have on Japanese Americans and their resistance to incarceration are the posters of the Day of Remembrance, which happens every year in February, referring to the Executive Order 9066, in which Japanese Americans were imprisoned. And this is a trunk that we found that had been in one of the camps with a lot of family material. We do a lot of work with booksellers in California and elsewhere. One of our favorite places to go to is Balerium Books. Another place I do business with is David Anthem in New England or New York. We also do stuff with other booksellers who deal in activism or Japanese American material if they can get it or if we can afford it. We can't afford it anymore. In the Johnson's Rare Books in Covina and Kate Midas in San Francisco and several others all around the country. And a lot of these topics, it's from a bin at a book fair in San Francisco, are the topics that I collect and we deal with in a bit. Other collections that we have relating to activism include Anti-Marcos Filipino American activism, Native American activist collections, We have a very large collection of tradeswomen materials. This is women in non-traditional trades. This is the movement to get women into these trades, both through activism and through training. And you know, they were building buildings, they were doing electricity, they were electricians, they were plumbers, they still are, and we're still getting a very good amount of material from across the country relating to the movement to get women into non-traditional trades. We have a very large LGBTQ collection, mostly of publications, some manuscript collections. This is a really good resource for our students, and they respond quite well to it. Our Black Power movement materials I've talked about. We have a lot of other material. Additionally, we have the materials from the Lagon Aquarian bookstore. The Aquarian bookstore was the longest continuously owned Black-owned bookstore in Los Angeles. It ran between the 40s and the 90s. They were both interested in African-American history and in metaphysical New Age material stuff. Nikkei for Civil Rights and Redress is the folks who published those Day of Remembrance posters, and they were active both to try to get redress, the $20,000 that Japanese Americans got from the government 40 years after they were imprisoned, and continue to try to remember that stuff and work with other groups that are oppressed because of government confusion. The Chicano collections I talked about, the anti-conscription draft collections we have a good deal of feminist material, both from the suffragette movement and from the movement in the 60s and 70s. We have a nice, huge collection of Upton Sinclair books and archival material. And we've recently got some material from the Iraq War, anti-war folks. This is a poster of one of our LGBT collection exhibits that we had, and this is the poster for the current exhibit that we have, No Peace, No Justice, with a K. I guess it's probably hiding there. And we've got, this exhibit is open till May, and we've had more students and student interest and whatnot on this exhibit than we have had on any number of other exhibits. Here we are with our button collection, mostly from the Holt or from other things. My contact information is right here, and I look forward, if that's what's going to happen, to questions that we have on this project. And I didn't talk very much about funding the archives, but we've had a variety of ways to do it, because we really didn't start out with very many staff or funding, but we've worked over the years to get that stuff. So thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to further discussions. Thank you.